Operation Confidence and LA Talk Radio proudly presents America's Invisible Heroes radio talk show. Tune in weekly on Sundays, 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific Time, with your host, Consuelo Mackey, U.S. Army veteran and co-host, Matt Davison, announcer Taylor Marcella, and Brooke Gadesi, U.S. Army veteran and entertainment segment host, Charles Whitehead, Veterans and Legal segment host, attorney Danielle Sherrod, U.S. Army Veterans and Lifeline for Women Veterans segment host, Martha Elena Varela, Veterans in Recovery host, Anthony Akinpora, and U.S. Air Force veteran and Incarceration to Success segment host, Kevin Lewandowski. For more information or to be a guest on our show, email info@operationconfidence.org.
Only on LA Talk Radio.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to America's Invisible Heroes, a show dedicated to our veterans and their families. And yes, I'm your host, Consuelo Mackey, Executive Director of a grassroots nonprofit organization called Operation Confidence. For those who are new to the show, Operation Confidence American Invisible Heroes strives to provide a platform for veterans to be able to share their experiences, heartfelt stories, resources, and challenges, and of course, accomplishments. Now I'd like to introduce you to my wonderful co-host, Air Force veteran and Operation Confidence board member, Matt Davison, U.S. Army Reserve board member, Charles Whitehead, our announcer and board member, Brooke Gadesi, Taylor Marcella, board member and also an announcer, U.S. Air Force veteran, Kevin Lewandowski, board member, and he also has a monthly segment called From Incarceration to Success. And then we have Martha Elena Varela. She has a segment as well called Lifeline for Women Veterans, and Ann Montague. She also has a monthly segment called the Rosie's Movement. Good afternoon to you all, our Facebook Live audience, as well as LA Talk Radio listeners. Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Happy.
Okay. I would now like to turn the show over to Charles to acknowledge our Military Appreciation Month.
All right now. Happy Sunday to everyone. Operation Confidence and the America's Invisible Heroes Talk Radio team honorably acknowledges Military Appreciation Month. Officially designated by Congress in 1999, I remember way back when they were singing that song. Anyway, Military Appreciation Month takes place every year throughout the entire month of May. Every year, the president issues an annual proclamation reminding Americans to celebrate this patriotic month that pays tribute to those who have, sacrificed or so much for our freedom. Freedom is important. That would be it. That's just a little for you.
Thank you, Charles. I'd like to turn it over to Matt at this time. Take it away, Matt.
Memorial Day is a sacred day where we remember the men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of freedom. VA Secretary Dennis McConaughey said, "We can never forget these heroes nor the families who continue to grieve the loss of their mother, father, son, daughter, sister, or brother who stood in the gap for each of us to maintain the very democracy that we are able to treasure every day." Live streaming, recorded video, and photographs from these and other ceremonies will be shared on the National Cemetery Administration's Facebook and Twitter pages. VA will also debut a new feature on the Veterans Legacy Memorial site in time for Memorial Day. Originally launched in 2019, Veterans Legacy Memorial contains a memorial page for each of the nearly 4 million veterans and service members interred in a VA National Cemetery where visitors can leave written tributes. For more information about VA Memorial Day commemorations, you can contact the Public Affairs Les Melnick, that's LES.MELNYK @va.gov. Tonight at 7 p.m., our frequent guest, Tom Lasser, will be given the keynote address at Green Hills Memorial Park. You can see and hear Tom along with skydivers, bands, flyover, and fireworks by Googling Green Hills Memorial Park Memorial Day. Enjoy.
Okay, thank you so much, Matt. And we have to congratulate Tom. He's doing a marvelous job out there, isn't he?
Miss Bella.
Okay, we want to, now Taylor, please introduce our next guest.
Here, Connie. I would like to introduce Kevin Lewandowski, Air Force veteran, homeless veteran outreach specialist for Volunteers of America. Kevin has a monthly segment entitled From Incarceration to Success and will introduce his guest speaker for today. Take it away, Kevin.
You're muted, Kev.
Oh. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. As you said, my name is Kevin Lewandowski. And a little bit about myself first is I was homeless on the streets, lived in the gutter for 28 years, drug addict, alcoholic. And I wound up in prison for 3 years for forgery, fraud, strong-arm robbery. And that's when my life turned around, was in prison. So that's why I'm such a advocate for people in prison. I work with the incarcerated right now that are coming out because I know there is hope for people to turn their lives around and make a difference in the world. So I also have a little service dog. Her name is Miss Bella. You'll see her in a minute. She just ran away her bed. But I will talk about, you'll meet her in a little bit later. So today I would like to introduce my guest, Sarah Morrow, who's an LCSW clinical social worker, who works as a clinical director for a local forensic mental health program. Throughout her training, she has worked with veterans, starting at the VOA with combat veterans with PTSD, and then continuing her work down on Skid Row, helping homeless veterans with mental health and housing. She's currently working on a memoir with the television project chronicling her time spent working with the veterans on Skid Row. And it's very, what she's going to do is very it's just an amazing thing, and she's done amazing work. I used to work with her on Skid Row. We worked together at VOA, and I worked with her in getting the veterans that she had on her caseload housed when I worked for the housing. So right now, that's enough of that. I would like to introduce you to Sarah, who will talk a little bit more about her her dealing with veterans, her life, and things that have impacted her. Go ahead, Sarah.
Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. I know my time is short, so I guess I'll just keep it kind of topic specific. I was drawn to working with veterans immediately when I was in graduate school and didn't even put it together later that my father is also a veteran. So, I mean, I didn't grow up with it being something that was often discussed in the home, but I think somehow sometimes we find our way to things just instinctively. So in working with veterans, one thing that I noticed that was so important was a sense of community and a sense of purpose. And I think that was from my work with them and the therapy that we would do, it was, I think it's something that develops even before they enter into the service and is so important to maintain afterwards. that sense of, again, that sense of community, that sense of brotherhood and sisterhood, don't want to, you know, all genders included, and really feeling like they were important and had a mission greater than themselves. So it was really a privilege to get to work with these men and women, and just to try and help them kind of put the pieces back together. Because for some, I noticed when they discharged from the services, their life kind of really fell apart in certain ways. And looking back at that, yes, that is part of the journey to wellness, but more so giving them hope and resources like you guys are talking about to put things back together.
Right.
Because absolutely, like Kevin has said, these are, you know, they're absolutely capable if they have the means and a way to access them, to getting back to being self-sufficient and going on to live incredible lives that are just as meaningful.
Well, Kevin shared some wonderful things about you, and we really want to invite you to become one of the team players on coming back on the show and sharing a lot of information. And I know Kevin has told you what our mission is to provide homes and resources and shelter for our veterans, especially those with a disability. So hopefully you'll be part of our grassroots effort.
I would love that, because I think
wonderful.
There really is a need for people to understand more about what happens for veterans.
That's
other
right.
than a couple days a year when they get the thank you for your service text.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not a veteran either, but my heart is, I have veterans in the family, and my heart is just so full of wanting to help them, especially after I seen an encampment living out of wheelchairs on the street.
Yeah.
And that just broke my heart. So there's lots of them all over, thousands and thousands. We got a big job on our hands.
I know.
I know.
What
Sarah, could you talk a little bit about your memoir that
you're so that's part of before I came to working as a licensed clinical social worker, I worked in developing creative projects for film and television. So what I'm doing now is taking my experience with that and being a writer myself and trying to pen something that shows all the colors in the prism, the light, the dark, the humor, the sadness, the very thing, you know, the human experience, because it's not just, oh, poor them, or, oh, yay,
right.
Like there's just, I think there's a gap in what people know, and I'd love to share whatever I can to maybe.
Well, you come back and share it with us, please. And as you know, Kevin has a monthly show segment, so make sure you come back and be a part of that. We really need you on board, okay? Thank you so much. Now, Brooke, can you take it away? You're muted, Brooke.
Oh, my apologies.
Okay, can you introduce our next guest?
You got it, Connie. Our next returning segment host is U.S. Army veteran Martha Elena Varela, MPA, who has a monthly segment entitled Lifeline for Women Veterans. Martha is a women's veteran outreach coordinator and has 20 years of nonprofit work experience working with inner city communities. When in the military, she was a combat field medic and holds a degree in social work, youth studies, and multicultural studies. She received her MPA from City University, New York, and completed her graduate research at the California Endowment, California's largest private health foundation. Take it away, Martha.
You're muted, Martha.
Thank you, Brooke. Yes, happy to be here again with everyone this weekend. And today's guest is Mr. Anthony Acampora. Mr. Acampora is a published author and graduate of Vision International University, where he earned a master's degree in ministry. He also holds a master's degree or a master's diploma in biblical studies from the International School of Ministry. Anthony is a chaplain and the Faith in Recovery Director at the Banyan Treatment Centers, where he works with veterans. And he is also an ordained minister, speaker, and writer who has published numerous articles in various national and international magazines. Most recently, Anthony was awarded the 2019 Professional of the Year by Broward National Recovery. And in 2018, Anthony was selected as a Global Goodwill Ambassador representing the USA. Anthony is also a former host of the Faith and Recovery radio show, which has aired in Orlando and Atlanta. Thank you very much, Anthony, for joining us today. And as we heard Sarah talk a little bit about the importance of mental health services for our veterans, there's also an intersectionality between substance abuse and mental health. And for many of our veterans who come back, with the scars of war, having experienced trauma along the way, sometimes we see and hear about the substance abuse that occurs as a means to self-medicate for many who have not successfully connected to mental health resources. So Anthony works with veterans at a national treatment center program. Anthony, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing at the Banyan Treatment Centers for vets, and tell us a little bit about where some of those locations are for those who are listening?
Sure, absolutely. So thank you for having me. And Banyan's been around for about 9 years, Banyan Treatment Centers. We started with one location. Now we have 14 nationally. And about a year ago, we really started with our Veterans in Recovery programming. So we have 8 locations nationally that are certified through Optum and also TriWest. And we go through the VAs, and they approve, long-term treatment, mental health disorders, substance abuse. We have a really large mental health program, but we started with substance abuse. So I'm in Pompano Beach right now. That was our first location. And like I said, we have 8 that are certified for veterans in recovery. We also have a faith-based program, which I'm the director of, and that's also in Pompano Beach, Florida. But the veterans program has been absolutely incredible, and it's really taken off in about the last 3 or 4 months. And we've seen tremendous success with our veterans that are in our program.
Wow.
Great. Thank you, Anthony. And tell us, just if you can, what influenced your decision to work with veterans, or what motivates you to do the great work you do with veterans?
Well, I got into this, I was never in this field before. I was in the security field for years. I was a director of corporate security. And I went through a period of time where I dealt with major depression and anxiety at a really high level myself. And that led into addictions to alcohol and gambling and those types of things. So that's how I ended up in this field. And when we ended up moving into the veteran space, I thought it was just a great opportunity to really give back to people that have just sacrificed everything and just have gone through tremendous suffering for us, for our freedoms. So I love it. I love doing the outreach aspect, but I also love the ministry component that I'm very much involved with our veterans. We have 3 veterans in our faith program right now in Pompano Beach, and we have about 42 nationally. So I just think that, like the guest said earlier, we're trying to medicate pain and numb pain, and that's what I was doing. And it's really the same thing, different circumstances, but it's trying to escape from reality oftentimes. And I know it very well because I did it for 7 years myself. So I love working with them. I love working with the vets. I love working with our mental health clients and also our substance.
Wow, Anthony, you have a tremendous track record. We sure need you on our team. I know that Martha is going to give you some information, and I will as well, on what the Operation Confidence is doing. And we need people like you to be a part of our grassroots effort to help our veterans. They're in such
you.
need. And I thank you so much for coming on the show. Good job, Martha. You go, girl.
Thank you. Thank you. Anthony, really quick, if there's any vets that are listening out there that are in need of some substance abuse help or services, some faith, spiritual services that you guys offer. You did mention there's a location in California, but how could they reach and connect to the services that you guys provide at the Banyan Center?
That's so
Sure.
important.
Yeah, it's banyantreatmentcenters.com, banyantreatmentcenters.com. And I give out my number because I also minister to different vets and people that call just in general, whether they come in or not. So my number is 201-538-2754, 201-538-2754. We also partner with Warriors Journey and other major faith-based foundations. So I always offer my services, whether they're coming in here or they just have questions or whatever, they just need someone to listen. I'll be happy to do that.
That's great,
Thank
Anthony. We're going to post that on your information on our website as well. But real quick, I know we have a time limit, but can you give us, we're all spiritual, can you give us a real quick prayer?
Absolutely. Father, we come to you right now and we just ask for your peace to be poured out over, the peace that passes understanding, to be over all of our veterans, all of our people that have served, Lord, the families. And we ask you to just strengthen them, especially on this weekend, Lord. Just strengthen them and empower them, Lord, and just pour out your peace over them. We thank you, Father, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you so much. We all needed that. We're going to turn it over now to Taylor.
All right, Connie. It is with honor that I, on behalf of Operation Confidence Board of Directors, introduce Anne Montague, a Rosie the Riveter daughter. The Rosies have joined our team with a monthly segment entitled The Rosies Movement. Anne says some of her first memories were of her mother going to work in the mornings, feeling well, then returning home dizzy from inspecting lenses at what they called the War Factory. Rosies are the surviving women who worked on the home front for the war effort during World War II. Anne's guest today is one of the original Rosies, Ruth Edwards. Everyone, please welcome Ruth.
Hey, Ruth.
Thank you. Thank you.
She's so precious. She's an original Rosie. Anne got a birthday coming up. How old are you going to be, Anne?
I'm not going to tell you. I asked you to tell me. I'm not going to tell you.
No, I'm sorry. Not Anne. I'm talking about Ruth. Forgive me. I'm so excited about Ruth. I mean, she's an original Rosie.
I'll be 80. I'll be 82. So I don't keep that a secret.
Well, you're one of the daughters. I'm talking about Ruth right now. It's just a girl. You got a birthday coming up, huh, Ruth?
That's right. I have a birthday in October and I'll be 99.
Is that amazing? Look how fabulous she is. Is she fabulous or what? You go. I love it.
Feel great.
Well,
my mother used to say, don't be smart as a whip, be smart as a lollipop.
Okay.
Nobody wants a whipping, right?
That's right. Well, we're going to turn it over to you, Anne.
Okay, that's great. I so appreciate being here, and I'm very much interested in the variety of people we have here, and certainly the deep understanding that you all have, that veterans have, especially as they transition from the military back to civilian life. Now, the American Rosie movement is something that that Ruth was part of actually from the beginning. We started in 2008, just ran an ad in the paper, thinking we would primarily be interviewing at the very most 14 Rosies, and we've interviewed now 200 over the last 13 years.
This is the Rosie's movement, not the Rosie Derivatives, right?
Well, the Rosie movement is called the Rosie movement because if you say Rosie the Riveter, then women don't come to you who are not riveters. For example, Ruth here was not a riveter. She'll tell us about that in a minute. So many of the women worked on farms, they worked in shipyards, they worked for the government, they worked for the FBI, for example, etc. And Ruth is an example of somebody who worked in a factory, but she wasn't a riveter. So it's the American Rosie movement. And it's 13 years now that we've been doing this. We not only interview the women and try to get their stories and understand what they have done that is important, but what they are ready to do now. So over the 13 years, we have actually done 18 different projects that are replicable in any part of the country or any part of the world. For example, we have a park that the women designed themselves. We have interstate bridges that have been named for Rosies. The first government building in America that was named Rosie the Riveter. So Ruth is a lady that we introduced very early on in, let's see, 2009, I believe it was. And she's a very special person. And instead of telling you now what her story is, let me just interview her, and we'll go from there, because I think there is no way to substitute my words for the genuine and outstanding Rosie the Riveters. So Ruth, are you there?
I'm here.
Ready, set, go.
Ready, set, go.
Ready, set, go. Ruth is now in North Carolina. And Ruth, tell the group here in America, tell us the most famous person you know or you've been close to in your life. Let's start there.
Well, I guess maybe I would have to say a friend, Chuck Yeager, the Brigadier General. I graduated from high school with him in 1941, and we became close friends. I knew him all his life, and they're making a documentary of his life right now. And his wife in California sent a videographer here to Greensboro and interviewed me because I had so many things from his early life. We dated a while. I don't say too much about that though, but we did. He always said that when I grew up, he was going to marry me, but I suppose I didn't grow up enough. I'm just 4'11". So
How tall are you, Ruth?
I'm 4'11".
4'11".
4'11".
So she didn't grow up enough. Now let's talk about your height. When your love of your life, Jimmy, went to war, basically just as the war started, and you were graduating from high school.
Yes.
You applied for a job in the Naval Ordnance Center, or was it called Carnegie Steel at that time?
It was in the U.S. Naval Ordnance Plant, but Carnegie Illinois Steel from Pennsylvania came down and set up a plant inside the U.S. Naval Ordnance Plant. So sometimes it's referred to as the U.S. Naval Ordnance Plant, and sometimes just Carnegie Illinois Steel. But my job was expediter for Carnegie Illinois Steel. And I went to work. I was almost 20. I was 19. I was just out of high school, 1941. And everyone put their education on hold because the talk of the war, we knew all the young men were going to war, and we knew that we would probably go into a job. And, you know, they turned all the manufacturing plants into plants that made parts for the battleships and airplanes and just for the war effort. they worked for the war effort. So all those places were without workers because the young men were gone. So the women came out and took those jobs. We just combined and decided it's as the Rosie's emblem is, we can do it. We did it.
Right.
Did it. And one of the outstanding things, many outstanding things that about Ruth's story is that she is not 5 feet tall, and they had her be the expediter. So tell us what expediter meant in this huge factory.
Okay, the expediter was one who went from, I was in the machine shop, and we had milling machines, drill presses, all kinds of machines, just rows and rows of machines lined up. And we went from machine to machine, making sure that the workers, the operators, had all the materials and supplies that they needed for the shift. And if they needed anything, we reported it back to management, because we were the communications link between production and management. At that time, of course, there were no cell phones or anything like that. So we did all that communications work back and forth. And we did mostly running. And that's what I said, if I'd had a Fitbit, I'd have gotten my 10,000 steps in every shift without a doubt. We did, the plant worked 24 hours a day. So we did shift work, swing shift. We worked 8-hour shifts, and it was from 4 to 12 and 12 to 4, and then 4 to 12 and 8 to 4. So we worked the clock around, and we didn't have any vacations. We worked full time, and the women came from all different parts of the state to work there. Some of them had terrible experiences getting there. They had problems getting to work. But my job was just, it was like inspection, but it was back and forth from the office to the machine. And we did that so many times during the shift, because things could happen, things could break down during the shift, and we would have to be there to take care of the matter.
Now, important piece here is that Jimmy was in the Pacific. And tell us how often you got to communicate with him.
Well, he was just unfortunate enough to be in just past Pearl Harbor on his way to Manila when the bomb was dropped on Bataan. So he was on Bataan Death March, and was fought until their ammunition ran out. They had old ammunition, and which didn't hold up very well during the war, World War II. And they fought until April of 42. Then they ran out of ammunition practically, and they were doing hand-to-hand combat. And he and all of his squadron were captured by the Japanese, and they served in Japanese prison camps for 42 months.
And then tell about the Bataan March and your husband being in the death house.
Okay, he on the Bataan Death March. The march itself wasn't too long because Bataan Peninsula was not that big, but they marched them round and round because they didn't really know what to do with them. And my husband said he spent most of his time standing in line for water, but they just had one place to get water. And in all those days that they were captured, I don't suppose the Japanese knew exactly what to do with them because there were so many of them. But he had a terrible time on the march. A lot of their shoes wore out, and they couldn't, if someone fell by the wayside, they were bayoneted. I mean, it was just a terrible experience, that Bataan Death March was. It's entirely too terrible to even tell about. I can't put it all together right now, but it was awful. He suffered something awful during that time. And then when he went on to the prison camps, of course, that was terrible too. So the whole experience was bad. But Baton was really, it was a terrible place to be.
And he was put in the death house because
Oh, yes,
bodies.
yes, he went to 3 or 4 different Japanese camps right around that area in Manila. And then they sent them what they called hell ships, because there were so many of them crowded onto the ships that they couldn't even move. They were just standing so close together that they couldn't even move. And he was finally sent to Tokyo, Japan, and was forced to work in a copper mine. And he did that, and they would send him down in the mine. And copper was a little bit hard to get out of the ground. So it took them a long time to fill their bins, and they couldn't come up out of the mine until they got their bins filled. So he was just, and they were starved to death. All they got was just a little teensy weensy portion of rice. So he was in real bad shape, and he got down to 76 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
And they put him in what they call the death house. The death house, the picture of the one I saw had just a roof and sides on it, and the floor was bamboo, not the strips of bamboo, but the loose bamboo, just like chips, I would say. So they slept on the chips of bamboo, and the sides were open. So they put him in there to die because he was down so low that they didn't want to waste their little portion of rice on him. So they put him in the death house to die. And he had a friend that passed by and just happened to look in there and see him and recognize him. And he asked the Japanese guard if he could take care of him, and said that he would check in on him occasionally, and just to make sure that he was still around or what to do with him after he died, I suppose. And that guy's name was Oki Pack, and he was a friend of my husband's. But anyway, he was able to steal a little extra rice out of the kitchen, and he fed him along, and he told me that he got his temper aroused every once in a while, so his adrenaline would start flowing. So he just practically saved he did save his life, because he would have died. And so he snapped him out of it, and he got out and was able to serve the rest of his time.
That's amazing story.
And let me say at this point, Consuela, that one of the things that's missed very often in the story of Rosie's is that it wasn't just what they did on the home front, which is critically important. That's necessary to know. But what's more important to me is that they took care of wounded veterans. Many of them had children who grew up like me to say, I will do my best to make freedom work. And,
wow.
You know, I think the children of the Rosies are going to be an upcoming power in the American Rosie movement. Now,
Yes,
how much time do we have? Because I'd want to ask Ruth a couple more questions. Do we have time?
we're running kind of low there, because we wanted to introduce Randy, who well, we've seen that logo, but Randy is able to share a little bit about the Rosie's the aircrafts that they built.
Okay, good.
Can we show that real quick, Charles? And let Randy take it from here. Randy?
Yeah.
We're waiting on Charles to show the first aircraft, air fighter.
Warcraft.
He'll bring it up. You muted, Charles. Still muted. He's bringing it up.
Sorry, give me a second here. You can go ahead and talk. I'll pull them up for you.
Okay, well, Randy, introduce, well, let me give a brief background about Randy. Randy is a connoisseur on aircraft fighters that was constructed by the Rosies. Now, what he's supposed to be doing right now, when Charles brings up the pictures, is giving a little brief description of all of those fighters, 3 of the fighters anyway, that was constructed by the Rosies. You still haven't? So there's one. Tell us about this one, Randy.
Okay, that is the North American P-51. It was built by the thousands. Like, I think the total in different models was around 15,000 of those. And it was built right here in Inglewood, California, is where the factory was. And they were used in both theaters of World War II for the whole entire war. It was all 3 of these aircraft were designed and built. The first ones were about 1938, 39 era. That's a P-40 Warhawk built by Curtiss.
And tell us about that dragon face on there. What does that mean? Was that just, why was that on that second plane?
That was just part of the nose art. They called it a shark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was just fun, huh? At least okay, great.
That went into World War II real early over in China, fighting against the Japanese. And there's a pretty good old movie on with John Wayne in it called Flying Tigers. And that's about that airplane right there. It was a squadron of American volunteer pilots that went over and fought against
the last fighter, Charles.
Saw that not too long ago, Randy.
That's the Lockheed P-38. It's about the same era. The test first prototype flew in, I think it was 1939. But it stayed in production throughout. All 3 of those airplanes stayed in production throughout World War II. And they call that the fork-tailed devil. That's what the Germans used to call the P-38 when they first saw it. And the Army Air Corps before World War II had put out a specification for a twin-engine fighter aircraft that could be converted and used as a bomber also, or carry rockets under the wings. And most of the P-38s had most of the armament was in the nose of the airplane up front there. And it consisted of a 20mm cannon surrounded by 4 50 caliber machine guns. So it had a pretty good wallop when it came to getting into a dogfight.
Okay, that's great. Great. Well, that's some of the Rosie's work.
You betcha.
The Riveters work. Thank you.
And that's just a few. That's just a few of the aircraft.
Yeah, he's gonna come back on monthly with more information about those Rosie fighters. If I'm quite sure that everybody's going to be excited to know that. Yeah. So, and with Charles, did you have a question you wanted to ask Ann? Let's take this back off the screen now. The fighters. There we go.
And I saw there was something about a documentary. Is that still out? Where do people find that documentary about the?
It's on our website. We actually have 2 websites. One is thanksplainandsimple.org. So that's the name of our major organization. And underneath that, that mission is the American Rosie Movement, which is, you can see that. And the film is, you can access the film on either one of those sites, www.thanksplainandsimple.org or www.americanrosiemovement.org. One thing I want to just mention to Randy is that we have a Rosie right here in my community who helped to build that P40. So
Wow.
we also have a man down in South Carolina who's been a friend of our organization for many years. And they have a P41 crashed in his community in Camden, South Carolina, and they've restored it, and they're going to have a flyover when we ring bells for Rosies on September 3rd across the nation.
That's great.
And we will feature 5 cities that have done 5 years of work with us. Actually, 5 US cities and excuse
Can you
me.
explain what these bells
one
are?
city.
Can you explain what the bells are, where they ring, and who rings them?
Anybody pick up a cowbell? I got a cowbell here. Actually, the way that happened is we were planting a dogwood tree in a little town called Buchanan, West Virginia, 2014 April. It was raining cats and dogs, and it was to honor a woman named Bobby Lamb, who was at the high school that day. And it was too hard, raining too hard for her to go outside. So a naval captain gave her a school bell to ring, or a bell to ring. And that picture was so good. And all at once, the Netherlands reminded us that that the Netherlands gave Caroline in Arlington, near Arlington Cemetery, to the United States for our help through the war. So all at once, it just fell on our laps, or it was ordained to happen. But now we're in our 6th year of ringing bells for Rosies, and we do it across Europe, then across the United States at 1 o'clock, everybody's own time zone. And then including Hawaii, of course, and then Australia and New Zealand, and we hope to add other countries this year.
That's great.
The important thing is just wake up and stay woke.
Right. Just got that right.
There's a radio program in Washington, Wake Up and Stay Woke.
That's cute. Well, we want everybody to know that Ann is going to be coming back, as I had mentioned earlier, every month with more information about the Rosies movement, as well as guests like that precious Ruth. Ruth, you coming back, aren't you, girlfriend? You have to come back. You were just wonderful.
Thank you.
Your information is so valuable. You're such a it's such an honor to have you.
It's valuable, yeah.
I'm a proud Rosie.
You're proud what, girl?
Very proud Rosie.
Yes, you are. And that's so precious. Thank you so much. And we're gonna have to now turn it over to Brooke. And Brooke, you're gonna take it from here. You're muted, girl. Oh, there you go.
I'm having some computer issues today. I apologize.
No problem.
Now it's time to hand it back over to Matt to acknowledge a special American invisible hero.
Today, I will be personalizing today's invisible hero story by telling you about my daughter-in-law's uncle, Private First Class Robert Monroy, who was awarded the Bronze Star for heroic actions during World War II. The following details were found in a 1945 newspaper article. By quickly rushing forward under constant enemy small arms fire to administer first aid to 5 wounded men and evacuating them to the rear area, Private First Class Monroy was awarded the Bronze Star. Serving as a medical corpsman in the 5th Army in Italy, attached to the 91st Powder River Division 757th Tank Battalion, his act of heroism occurred last April 23rd near Finale during a brisk fight with the Germans. He completely disregarded his personal safety and thought only of his welfare of the wounded men whose lives were saved by his prompt and efficient action. The citation reads, Monroy, who during his 2.5 years overseas also served in North Africa and Sicily. If any of our listeners has a family member or friend who should be recognized on our Invisible Heroes segment, please contact me at operationconfidence.org with your information, and we will shine a light. Our spotlight will be on him or her. Thank you.
Right. That is so great. Thank you so much, Matt, for that information. Charles, you're going to announce your entertainment segment, please, and then we're going to turn it over to Brooke, and we're going to start winding down. We got a few more minutes.
Yes, next Sunday I'm going to have a partner, a good friend of mine, and a business partner. He's a former Paralympian, and he's in the Hall of Fame. His name is Albert Campos, and that will be it'd be interesting. So he's a sports figure and good friend of mine. So we'll have him come Sunday. We'll be starting off with. I'll have a couple of videos to show you guys some of the things he's done with his son as well. His son's a veteran, but his son is a conductor who works on the trains on Sundays, and so it's hard to get him here. But we'll talk about him a little bit.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, Brooke, you're going to take it from here and close us down?
I got it. Before Ms. Connie closes, I'd like to remind our listeners about our amazing advertisement rates. We have 10-second and 30-second advertisement slots available. Please email info@operationconfidence.org for more information. That email address again, info@operationconfidence.org.
And I would like to, of course, since she's talking about our sponsors, the PVA has jumped on board, and we'd like to give those guys a little credit, if you don't mind.
Oh, please.
Close out with the video, and this is some of the stuff that they're doing. And these guys have a monthly segment they'll be coming in on as well. So
that's right. And they're our sponsor. We want to thank them so much. By the way, Charles wrote the theme song for this video.
Long Beach, PVA, California, chapter USA. The city by the waterfront, where the veterans work and play. Long Beach, PVA, California, chapter USA. The city by the waterfront, where the veterans work and play. Long Beach, PVA, California chapter. Long Beach, PVA, California chapter.
And there you have it.
Thank you. There you go. And as we close out, we just wanted to let all of our listeners know that the purpose for Operation Confidence Invisible Heroes is to raise awareness about our mission, which is to provide stable housing with a wide range of supportive services, including employment opportunities for disabled veterans, especially those who have experienced homelessness. So if you want to get behind our grassroots efforts, please contact us at info@operationconfidence.org. That's info@operationconfidence.org. And visit our website, www.operationconfidence.org. We have some outstanding resources for you to follow. So anyway, from now Until next Sunday, we want to thank everybody and our Rosies and our guests for coming on the show. And please come back for sure. Thank you, everybody. Signing out. Bye.
Bye now. Bye.
Thank you.
You're listening to Operation Confidence Radio Talk Show, America's Invisible Heroes, with Consuela Mackey, only on LA Talk Radio.